Welcome into the Toronto Sports Rush right here on the Bet Rivers Network. Remember to like and subscribe. We have a lot of great content for you all the time. EJ Hradek here and joined by my old friend, the general manager of the 1994 Stanley Cup champion New York Rangers. Maybe the most famous Stanley Cup championship team in my lifetime. I mean, it's the one that people point to still to this day. So, Neil Smith. Neil, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and it really is amazing, isn't it, EJ? When you think about the run that the Islanders had from 1980 to
Yep.
1983, and that unbelievable run, and yet one cup by the Rangers gets mentioned more than
Yeah.
their dynasty. And I mean, it's just the truth. It's not because I was part of it. I
Yeah.
was part of both,
You
and
were.
I
You
can
were
tell
with
you
you.
that.
You were started kind of. I think it was where you kind of started your career in management, like being, working in the Islander organization, right?
Yeah, true. Working for Al Arbor, going and pre-scouting games because back then you didn't have the
No.
television coverage and
Yeah.
ability to see games from afar. So I would travel and give Al a report on what the opponent might do.
Mm-hmm. Really? Well, hey, listen, it led to a long and very fruitful career. We're happy to have you with us today. Let's talk about the Leafs, and it's been a whirlwind of about 4 months. You go back to the moving out the GM, moving out the coach, hiring a new manager, hiring a new coach, making some moves. Let me just ask you. I think we were in agreement, both surprised when they hired John Chayka as the manager. I would say very surprised for me. I would think you were probably maybe in a similar state, but he's had the job for a little while now. What are your thoughts on how things have gone so far? Because I have to be honest, I'm a little surprised. They've done a pretty good job in a short period of time. I haven't agreed with everything. What do you think?
Well, they're definitely taking action, which is commendable. They're not sitting on their hands. I mean, my old team has done nothing in the time that they've done everything they've done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is commendable. They're trying. They're out there. The Darren Raddysh acquisition is obviously a good one. He's got a bomb of a shot from the
Yeah.
point, and he's a Torontonian, and he goes to the Leafs. I mean, they jumped on that. I think that was good. Um, yeah, they'll probably make the right move on Friday when they
Yeah.
take Evan McKenna, and he's a franchise player in the making. Um, the rest of the moves, which includes the hiring of Jim Hiller, which I wouldn't have seen from from outer space. I wouldn't have seen that coming, and as I wouldn't have
Uh,
seen Keith Pelly anointing John Chayka as the general
yeah.
manager. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
seen that from even with one of those telescopes they have that see
Yeah.
planets light years away. So I mean, we'll have to give these gentlemen a chance. I guess we have no choice but to give them a
Yeah.
chance. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, let me ask you about the decision to hire Jim Hiller. Now, I find it funny that they talked about, well, we talked to, like, 2,000 coaches. It seemed, or I think, to be fair, I think they said the number was like 40 or 45, 50 coaches. Seems like that's a lot of people to talk to. I know that is a thing, maybe in all businesses, where you go out and you try to pick the brain of a lot of people, even though you have no intention of hiring most of them. I was, as you like with you, I didn't see the Jim Hiller hire coming. What do you think he can bring? I mean, he was an assistant coach there. That's a totally different role. People have made a lot of his relationship with guys. When you're an assistant coach, it's a totally different relationship. What do you make of Hiller and what he could possibly do to help this team be better?
The thing that confuses me, EJ, is that they say that they're in a win now thing because of Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander and so on, and so then they go and get Raddysh, who's not a young guy but a good player, a good
Yeah.
defenseman. They make the goaltending change, which I didn't see that coming either. Um, and it appears that they're ready to want to do something to get back in the playoffs and maybe even win a round. And then they go and hire a guy with basically no head coaching experience. When I say no, I know he's had a year. He was replaced McClellan
Yeah, Todd
in
McCraw. He had a
LA. Tom
year plus or
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
he doesn't have a lot of cheerleaders from the players that I know of. There are not a lot of cheerleaders for Jim Hiller. Um, it forced Kenny Holland to make what I thought was an awful trade when he traded Deneau to Montreal, and he flourished in Montreal, but couldn't play for Jim Hiller. He just said, "Get me out of here. I will not play for this guy."
Yeah.
Um, that doesn't mean he won't be good in Toronto. I'm just saying this is
Yeah.
factually the background. Toronto Maple Leafs are the one of the top, at the very most, three teams in the league, meaning franchises, value, fan base, and so on. If not number one, they're in the
Yeah.
top three. You'd think that they would go and get somebody that gives them credibility. They get no credibility out of hiring Jim Hiller. As Steve Simmons said to me yesterday, I didn't hear a lot of people saying, gee, I hope they hire Jim Hiller to coach the Moose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they get no credibility, obviously, out of hiring John Chayka, but that's done and said and in
Yeah.
the books now. And so is Jim Hiller. And as I said, we'll have to give him a chance.
All right, we'll get. You mentioned Raddysh a couple of times. I do think that was. I mean, it was done. I think under the radar. You didn't hear a lot of discussion about it. They went out. They traded to get his rights, and they made the deal. People say it's a lot of money. It's a lot of term. I think we could all agree that it's a lot of money and a lot of term. But I don't know how else you get a guy who could be a free agent if you don't maybe give them more term and more money. I think that if they get 3 to 5 years of good performance out of Raddysh, they probably feel like it's a really good deal for them. I mean, you've been in that position as the manager. I mean, I know you'd like to think about 6, 7, 8 years down the road, but most of these guys that they do not get 6, 7, 8 years down the road. So, what do you make of that move? I mean, again, I think it made sense for where they were.
I think it makes sense because now that they allow legalized tampering in the league,
Yeah.
it's fine. Obviously, this is what this is what confuses me. Maybe you can explain it to me.
All right.
But Alex Tuck gets traded for and signed by Washington. Are you telling
Yeah.
me that they just called uh, Buffalo and said, "Hey, would you trade us Tuck?" And they
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, because we'd like to talk to him to try to get him to sign." You will? Okay.
Yeah.
Click. Call Alex. Alex, are you interested in playing in Washington? Like they had to have
Yeah.
had this deal done. So that
Yeah.
means they were tampering. And if and similarly with Raddysh, and unless there's something going on that I don't know about, like Julian Brisebois said to John Chayka, "Yeah, go ahead, talk to Raddish's agent. I
Yeah.
don't care." But doesn't that have to be registered with the league? I mean, and I mean, I don't get it. That's the part of this I don't get. Now, was it a good move? Yeah, if you can do that, if you can call Toronto, if you can call Tampa and say, "Hey, what would let me give you something modest so that I get a 2 week head start on
Mhm.
Raddysh." So they
Yeah.
give him a fifth round pick. Hey, Buffalo, this is Washington. Let us give you something modest for one of your two best players because we want to sign him early, and you make the deal. I guess it's all well and good, but in my day, that was tampering. I mean, you could not talk to somebody until July 1st.
Neil, let me ask you this. Even going back to when you were in that role, if Lou Lamoriello called you from across the river when he was with the Devils and you guys had a conversation and you knew that you couldn't keep a guy or you had a feeling you couldn't keep a guy, would you in turn tell Lou, like, listen, you can have a conversation with his agent, and if you could work out a deal, then we'll do this? Isn't kind of that what is going on here?
I guess so. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but that didn't happen back then. I mean, if you
Mhm.
called me and you said, Neil, um, let me have a conversation with Brian Leach's agent
Yeah.
to see if he'll come to me,
Yeah.
I would say, well, what are you going to give me to have that conversation? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not letting you have that conversation unless I get something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not if you sign them. But now, the rules are all changed. There's much earlier free agency than there ever was in my time.
Mhm.
And I guess this has
That's
bended all
true.
the rules. But I don't know. Bill Daly came out about tampering last year
Mhm.
and warned them all after last season's. I think it was last summer's. free agent period.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he will this year.
I think it probably goes to whether or not you're actually in those conversations, right? Like if you and I are talking and we're having that conversation, and I gave us a hypothetical with you and Lou from years ago, I don't think I can claim tampering, right? If I am having that conversation, but if there are situations where you haven't had those conversations and things happen quickly, that's where I think you call the league and say, hey, you got to look into this.
Well, from what I understand, EJ, from talking to some of the GMs, the problem is that if I call in and rat out EJ, okay, on tampering with my guys, EJ's going to call in and say, well, what about Neil tampering with this guy?
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
going to go like a daisy chain all through the league
Yeah.
because everybody's doing it. Everybody's
Yeah.
talking to people early. So, but in any case, even if it's unwritten rules now that they're doing it, they're doing it. And good
Yeah.
on McClellan to get Alex Tuck. Good on Chayka to get Raddysh to the
Yeah.
highest. It's a bad free agent season, right? It's not a good
Yeah.
free agent season.
No.
So they've taken two of the best ones right out of the mix already.
Yeah, they certainly have. How about the Wall deal with Wall and Benoit going to Philadelphia? Like, I'll give you just my quick take was that I thought, Wall was just not available enough for me. I mean, it just always seemed like there was something, either an injury or a personal issue, and I think they've got some goalies percolating in the minors, so they move on from Wall. They save some money. I liked the defenseman, but maybe that was part of making that deal happen to save money. So they save some money, they get some players back. I don't know. Maybe Andre is a guy that can play defense for them. He's a smaller defenseman, so hard to say. But I think for Philly, it was about players. They like Benoit, they like Wall. And for the Leafs, it was about cap space. How did you see it?
I think the Leafs know some stuff about Joseph Wall that
Yeah.
decided to make him available. And the thing that confuses me is how much homework did Philadelphia do on these injuries or time off that he
Yeah.
had while he's been with the Leafs? Have they investigated into why that was going on? Now they get Sam Ersson. On the surface, if you're just looking at two goaltenders, you don't know anything about their personal lives or what's going on.
Mhm.
You'll take Wall over Ersson, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
agree.
when you dig down a little deeper, you might take Ersson over Wall.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad deal for the Leafs. I don't. I think that I like Benoit too, but I think the defenseman they got can play. So it might be apples for apples when it all turns out.
Yeah. So, but we'll see what they do with that extra flexibility. I mean, they've already used some of that money on Radish. They've got more to spend. How about Matthew Nice, Neil? That's been a guy. Every time I go on a show in different cities, every other city they're talking about trying to get Matthew Nice. So it seems like he is a popular commodity on the market right now. If you are in that John Chayka seat, I mean, what do you need? What would you have to get before you'd be willing to move off Nice, who is, I think, a guy that can help you win, particularly in the playoffs. So a valuable asset.
Yeah, I don't know why he'd be available. To me, I don't know the young man, but to me, he sort of reminds me of an Adam Graves type of guy.
Yeah.
He's a power forward. He's a big guy. I saw him, start playing for Toronto, and I'm like, wow, this is not the normal player. This is not Willie Nylander or Mitch Marner or even Austin Matthews. This is a real power forward. He's not going to score a ton, but he's going to score enough to justify being on the power play, being in a regular shift, and that I wouldn't trade him if I were Toronto. I love the guy as a player, but and so if for some reason you had to move him, I mean, you've got to get a top 3 to 4 forward to 5, top one of your top 5 forwards, I think, to trade him, or a top 2 defenseman or something. I just think he's a wonderful prospect of good player.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I do think that that's the second part there to me is like if you could get a top pair defenseman, I think you got to consider it. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know if you do it, but I think you have to certainly consider it because that's to me, Neil, where this team, if they're going to turn around next year and be better, and they already made the addition of Raddysh, they've moved out Benoit. We're going to see what they're going to do with Morgan Riley. I think that's what they need to do is they need to improve their defense dramatically, like flip it around in this offseason. And that's one way to do it. But it is a lot to give up. I agree with you.
And tell me if you agree with, or if you've heard the same things. I thought I heard that Brandon, they were listening to offers about Carlo.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that Riley is probably, on his very, very last legs there in Toronto. It seems like it's time for him to go to a Western team. I think he played in Moose Jaw, right? As a
he's a Western kid. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. So he probably would prefer to go West. And I think it's time. And, Toronto, after it doesn't take a long time for them to start saying, oh, he's not good enough. He's not what he used to be. And I think Toronto's down on him right now, not meaning the organization necessarily, but the overall cloud over Toronto.
Neil, I love to get your opinion on the other day. We had a bunch of deals going on. I mean, I sense there's a lot of change going on in this league in a lot of different areas. What did you make of the kind of plethora of trades we had the other day?
Well, I think that Jarmo Kekalainen has got a gun and a mask somewhere because he took Kyle Davidson to the woodshed on this. I mean, to get the 4th pick overall for Bowen Byram, he was with Colorado, then he was with Buffalo. He hasn't been a top pair defenseman either of those places. Is this really what Chicago needed more than a winger for Bedard? I mean, and Chicago also took a salary dump in Jordan Greenway. I like Jordan Greenway as a big man out there in the playoffs against Montreal, and what he did in those playoffs, but not for $3 or $4 million a year. I don't see it. So they took him over. Chicago also, they traded Crevier, and Crevier was a decent defenseman for them.
Big guy.
A weak defensive team. He was pretty good. So they get this Bowen Byram, who is a good player. Don't misunderstand that he's not a good defenseman. He is a good defenseman. I just don't think he's a top 2 defenseman. But they paid like they were getting a top defenseman because the 4th pick overall is going to be a dynamite player. I believe, and so Buffalo's already adding somebody to the team that they've already got a good team. Now, as we just spoke of, they just lost Alex Tuck, and that's a big hole for them. But this kid that they get on Friday is going to be in their lineup maybe for 15 years.
Yeah. If they keep the pick. Because maybe they have something, in the back of their mind because, Connor Hellebuck is maybe available. Buffalo's had they've had a kind of a carousel of goalies this year. Maybe that's what Jarmo's thinking that he wants to do. And as for, Chicago, listen, I agree with you. It's hard to trade the 4th overall pick. I like Bowen Byram probably better than you, but I would say this is that at some point in time, if you're Chicago, you can't be making a pick every year. You have to try to get better, right? I mean, so this is their effort. We'll see how it works. I mean, they've got 2 young, good right shot side defensemen in Rinzel and the kid they drafted 2nd overall out of Michigan State. Just the name escapes me right now, but and then they've got Alex Vlasic, who I think is a good left shot guy. They add Byram there, so that's kind of their 4. There's potential there, but Neil, as you've been in those situations. That's kind of a meaty deal that you make, and if it goes well, and if Byram signs and plays well, people forget about it. If Byram doesn't sign or if Byram doesn't play well, and that 4th overall pick becomes somebody good, that becomes the headline of your resume, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that 4th pick overall, let's put it the reverse. If that 4th pick overall becomes Pavel Brendel, my pick.
That was a bad draft, Neil.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I own my own. I own my own stuff. If that happens, then everything's forgotten about because Buffalo didn't escape with it.
Yeah.
Chances are, when you look at it right now, you're trading a potential star for a player who's a good player right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't say a star player, but a real
Yeah.
good player. The Cairo for Connor McMichael trade was
Mhm.
interesting. That I think there's, Cairo had an off year, I think, in 48 points. McMichael had the same amount of points for Washington. They get St. Louis gets a guy a couple of years younger, although they got to sign him. Cairo's got 2 years to go in his contract. I think there's more upside, but Washington puts Cairo and now puts Alex Tuck on that team. Does this convince Alex Ovechkin to come back?
Yeah.
Because the team's pretty good. So, I mean, I think that deal works for both teams. Honestly, I like Connor McMichael, and I think he'll be a good player. And then you've got the Simon Nemec going to New Jersey. Going
Going to
from New
Calgary. Yeah.
Jersey to Calgary. It's funny. We had Steve Simmons on, and he likes Siplikov, and I thought, have you seen him play? No, he's not a guy he's a salary dump.
Not a great skater.
No, he's a salary dump. I saw him on the island for, a long time, and then he didn't do anything at all. He got 4 goals for New Jersey this year.
Yeah.
And they get Etienne Morin, and but then they get 2 first-round picks. Calgary gave up their first-round pick in 27 and 28 to
Well,
New
I
Jersey.
think those might have been like the picks they got in other deals, like a Vegas pick and a Colorado pick.
Okay.
And those picks can get pushed off. I get the sense, Neil, that New Jersey's going to try to use those picks to make some kind of deal to better their team. So it's crazy right now. Like, Neil, I mean,
it is.
And you managed at a time when there was no salary cap, and you were known. I mean, I remember people used to call it Big Deal Neil because you were willing to make deals, and like you made great deals that helped the Rangers win a Stanley Cup. But like I think with that salary cap now and this draft capital, it does make it a tricky environment for teams.
Oh, I definitely think so. You're right on, EG. I think the whole environment is so much different than my day. I wouldn't compare it. And I think it is very tricky. And that's why I think you see the owners going out and hiring, completely off the chart GMs like New Jersey. They're not hiring an old hockey guy. This is Sonny is not Sam Pollock. I mean, he's the new breed. Let's see if it works, there. But don't you think that sort of goes hand in hand with what you just said, is that it's a very confusing environment. There's a lot of moving pieces all the time.
Yeah.
You do have 32 teams, only 50% only make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And out of that, 8 of those are gone within the first 10 days.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's a really different and very complicated environment, and put together that this year is not a good free agent crop. There's no Artemi Panarin out there this year.
Yeah. Let me ask you the last one, Neil, because I mean you were in a lot of drafts as a scouting director in Detroit, and obviously as a manager with the New York Rangers, and in other roles as well over many different years in your career. Gavin McKenna, looks like Toronto, they win the lottery. I mean, you talk about being lucky. I mean, they could have lost that pick altogether. They end up with the first pick. Looks like it's going to be McKenna. What do you make of what is it like having? I mean, I don't know if you probably never had a number 1 overall, right?
No, I did. I shouldn't say I did. I should say we did, and that was Detroit when we picked Joe Murphy. That was
That's right.
1986,
Yeah.
and we took a lot of criticism back then. Not to go back and go through ancient times, but we took a lot of criticism for not taking Jimmy Carson, who was from Detroit, who's from right from Detroit. Took Joe Murphy from Michigan State. So there's a lot of pressure when you do that, when that wasn't so clear cut. I think this one has been for a long time. McKenna's been the guy. Now they talk about Stenberg, but I would be surprised if Toronto didn't take the Canadian McKenna.
Yeah.
Because in these days, EJ, as you know, I don't think you want to be taking an American because they all seem to want to leave Canada.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Steve Simmons said that the other day, who lives in Toronto. I'm a Torontonian, but I don't live there. But he said what's evident is that American guys want to get back to to the states, and maybe some cases get to no income tax states and other things. And if Hellebuck is traded out of Winnipeg, I find that sad, because that's another great American player in Canada. Kyle Connor's another one, although he just signed long term. The Brady Tkachuk thing, we haven't touched on that. That's disappointing to me that happened. In that, I didn't think that would happen. I mean, Brady's been saying for years he doesn't want out. He's committed. He's committed. He's committed. Oh, here's my 4 teams. So it's
and
tough.
then maybe here's my 4 teams, and then maybe here's my 1 team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's my 4, but don't count these 3.
Neil, all I would say about it is is that I think the guys, listen, American kids are used to American cities, American sensibilities, just like I would say Canadian kids are used to Canadian cities and Canadian sensibilities. But I would say this, that guys are leaving not to just go to a city willy-nilly. They're looking to go to good teams. They're looking to go to better teams. It's kind of a little bit of the NBA model. Like Brady Tkachuk wasn't like, trade me to Columbus, trade me to anywhere. He directly trade me to Florida, where they have a really good team, where they had injuries this year, but they've won 2 cups. His brother's there, obviously his family's down there. And I think that's really more to the point, is these guys want to be in winning situations, and a lot of them are, in the U.S. So, we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, but having said that, though, EJ, Montreal's an up-and-coming team. Let's just use them for a minute.
But they haven't had anybody want to leave yet, right? Like Lane Hudson isn't saying, get me out of here to get back to the States, right?
No, for sure. You're right. You're right. But from what I understand, when they went through the no trade clauses of all the players in the league, 90% or thereabouts had all the Canadian teams on the no trade list.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and I'm Canadian, so I'm not saying this out of any kind of prejudice. It's just a fact that they, and I think Steve Simmons said yesterday, and not to get into this part of the world right now, but he said that the political environment, he thinks, has also had an impact on this relationship between
I would agree,
Canadian and American players, and American players not wanting to play in Canada, where America isn't thought of so highly right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't think, I think that's probably a bigger and broader conversation, but I think that's part of it. I think, Brady came back and to Ottawa, and there was some negativity, I guess, around that. And I mean, just look, all you have to do is look at what was going on at that time, and you can figure it out. But hey, we can't solve all the problems in the world, Neil, in 30 minutes or so, but always interesting to chat with you. You have such a unique perspective as someone who's done it, who's lived it, and has got his name on the Stanley Cup. Thanks again for the time, my friend. Always enjoy chit-chatting with you at this time of year, especially this time of year when there's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
It is. And you mentioned the draft earlier, that being going to many drafts and all that. And I got to tell you, I'm usually feel terrible at this time of year, because I love going to the draft when I was involved. They don't go to the draft anymore.
I know.
So I don't miss it. Yeah. So that would drive me. EJ, if I was with a team right now, that would drive me out of my mind, that I can't do my schmoozing that I would always do at the draft.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of great interaction. Everybody's in the same place. I loved it. Neil, we're of the same vintage, so to speak, so we both kind of lived it. We did it in different ways, obviously, but it's something that we grew to enjoy, that we get to see everybody. It was kind of like the big tent meeting that the league had. And, this is the second year in a row we're doing this decentralized draft. We'll see if it continues, but I'm with you. I don't love it.
No, I'd like to be. I went to the Sphere, and so that was cool. The last one, right?
Yeah. They went out with a bang. If that was the last one, they went out with a bang, because that was a cool.
That's for sure.
That was a cool day at the Sphere. All right, Neil, listen, thanks for the time, my friend. I'm sure we're going to be talking to you.
I hope so. I love seeing you, and we always have fun.
All right. That's Neil Smith, Stanley Cup winner with the New York Rangers in 1994, taking some time with us today right here on the Toronto Sports Rush. Remember, like and subscribe. Got great content for you here on the Bet Rivers Network. Thanks for your time, everyone.